I truly believe that taking care of yourself as if you are your own parent is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. Is one of the ways that you can combine all the self-confidence, self-love, motivational talk. Just act as if you are the parent to your inner child with every single situation. I was talking with a friend of mine and we were talking and she was very frustrated, and all of a sudden she goes like, you know, Liz, in moments like this where I'm frustrated, I get this urge to just hit myself. And she was kind of joking about it. And I looked at her and I said, would you hit your child if you were frustrated? And then she goes like, no, are you crazy? I would never do such thing. That's crazy, blah, blah. And I said, so why would you do that to your inner child? Because if you're doing that to yourself, you're doing that to your inner child and you're neglecting yourself. You're being a bad parent to yourself. And then she was like, wow, I never really looked at anything that way. And I said, you should start doing that, because in that way you can show up for yourself in the best way possible. In this video, I'll explain to you how you can do the same exact thing and in what kind of situations this can really save you. Want to start the new year with new habits? Then maybe you should consider therapy. And with therapy, I mean BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a paid partner of this video, and they are on a mission to make therapy way easier. Now, BetterHelp is completely online, and it makes it so comfortable and convenient to sign up, because you just fill out a little questionnaire and you get immediately coupled with a therapist in as little as a few days. These therapists are from different backgrounds and they also specialize in different things. So whatever you feel like you need, BetterHelp has it. Now, if you connected with a therapist but you didn't really like them, BetterHelp gives you the option to switch therapists with no additional charge. And in real life, that wouldn't really happen.
You can schedule video, phone, or message-based sessions, whatever you feel most comfortable with.
Start fresh any day of the year with BetterHelp. Either you click the link in the description down below, or you visit betterhelp.com/wizardliz for 10% off your first month. Hi guys, my name is Liz and welcome back to my channel. Let's get into it. First things first thing is creating a routine for yourself. What do all children have in common? They have routines. A child wakes up, goes to school, comes home, has homework, nighttime routine. And it's very disciplined, because most parents will not allow their children to just do whatever they want during the day. Now, when we step into adolescence, we don't have a routine anymore unless we create it for ourselves, and we as humans are naturally not comfortable with that much freedom. Our brain naturally craves familiarity because it releases positive emotions when it feels a sense of safety and comfort, and routines give you that safety and comfort because you can feel in control of something during the day. Now, if I wake up today and I don't know what I'm gonna do, or I don't have any routine at all, not a skincare routine or nighttime even routine, something so simple, I will literally go crazy, because what am I doing all day? Now, if you're thinking about being a parent to yourself, then you would think, okay, if I had a child, that child would have a routine, and that child would have to follow the routine in order for that child to achieve whatever they want and to develop in the best way they can. So apply that to yourself. What does my morning routine look like? What are my goals for today? What are my goals for the week? And then start doing these things. When you do something consistently in a routine base, it will form into a habit. So your body will do it without you even thinking about it. The same way you guys probably have a routine of going onto your phone in the morning, just looking at your phone and scrolling all day. That is routine for you now, but you can change that routine into something else. Into, for example, you wake up, you meditate for 30 minutes. If you just do it consistently, your mind will adapt to the fact that you're a person who meditates in the morning now. So every successful person that I know, and myself included, we all have routines, because if you're striving towards goals, routines can really structurize your day, and it takes away a lot of these excess thoughts and whatever. Like, I even eat the same foods because I don't want to think about food and all these things. That needs to go out of the way so I can focus on my work and on my goals and whatever I want to create. Next thing is caring about your inner and outer appearance. See, if you had a child, you wouldn't let your child willingly go outside with dirty clothes, smelly, not showered, not brushing teeth. You wouldn't do that, because then you're a neglectful parent. If you're thinking like that to yourself, why are you letting yourself walk out like that? Why? You know, it's all about, you need to look like you care about yourself and like you respect yourself. That means that caring about the way you look and making sure that you present yourself in a way that other people will in turn also respect you. Because I know that everyone wants to talk about, oh, we should only care about personality, this and that. But yeah, but when someone first looks at you, your first impression, we don't see the personality, we see what you look like. You know, looking put together is a form of self-respect. Caring about what you put in your body is a form of self-respect. You would care about what your child eats. You would care about how your child looks. You would care about these things. Now, care like that for yourself too. And also, like, if you look good and you think that you look good and you like the things that you're wearing, then that will lead to inner self-confidence, because you will just feel better about yourself. I know if I would send my child to school and they're wearing clothes that they love and they look nice, they will feel better about themselves. Also goes to having a clean space. So if you had a child, you would, for example, I would care if the room is clean, if like their environment is clean. Your environment holds energy. When there's too much clutter, when there's too much mess around, that is stuck energy in those items, and that is not good for you. You will feel like, I don't want to go home anymore. I feel like my space is not nice. Like, your home is supposed to feel safe. Also, dirty spaces are just less attractive to work in. If you need to focus and there's clutter all everywhere, your mind will be cluttered. So make sure that your space or whatever you're working in is clean. because you would do that for your child if you care about your child. I think it's neglectful to let children just grow up in dirty spaces and not care about their environment. Another thing is going outside. Now, this is actually something that I realized about myself. So when I was growing up, I wasn't really allowed to have friends or go out with friends or whatever. So I was a very isolated child. And whenever I wanted to go out with friends, I had to lie. It was for a school project because otherwise I was just not allowed. Now, when I grew up and I stepped into adolescence, I still carried on this behavior into my adulthood. And oftentimes I just isolate myself and I will stay home often, or I will go to places to eat and then just come home. But I don't really engage with a lot of people. And especially because my work is online, I don't have to engage with a lot of people. This is not healthy for my inner child. And I am being a bad parent for myself if I'm acting this way. Why? Because my inner child never got to experience going out when it was younger. Now, when I do have the freedom to go wherever I want, whenever I want, I still don't do it. So I'm still kind of abusing myself and I'm restricting myself. If I had a child right now, and if I'm being a parent to my child, I would not stay home with my child all day because that is neglectful.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into something a lot of you have been exploring, self-care. But with a twist, we're going to be looking at treating yourself like you would your own parent. And this is all based on the Thewizardliz's YouTube video, Become Your Own Parent. And get this, one of the things she argues is how much time you spend outside now as an adult. It's like directly linked to your childhood experiences. Kind of wild.
Right. So let's unpack it.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating concept. You know, it's not just about like pampering yourself. It's really about understanding, you know, how much our early experiences shape the choices that we make as adults, and then how we can, you know, use that awareness to really make some positive changes.
So to kick things off, Liz starts with this story about a friend who jokingly admitted to wanting to hit herself out of frustration. And Liz is like, hold on, would you ever do that to a child? It really makes you think, huh? It's such a good point. It's like we have these crazy double standards for ourselves. Like we're so quick to criticize and judge ourselves, but we would never, ever dream of speaking to someone we loved, especially a child, that way. And so this whole like inner parenting approach, it kind of helps us see those harmful patterns and start to shift them.
And she doesn't just, you know, point out the problem. She really dives into some practical solutions.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big ones is routines, not just like morning routines, but, you know, the kind that really create structure and security.
Yes.
Almost like what a parent would provide for their kid.
Exactly. So you're talking about like consistent sleep schedules, meal planning, even, you know, having designated time for leisure and fun. It's not about being rigid. It's more about providing that inner stability that a lot of us crave without even realizing it.
Okay. And then there's the appearance piece. I'll be honest. At first I was like, really? Is this just about vanity?
Yeah.
But Liz makes this really compelling argument for how taking care of your physical self, from hygiene to clothing to like your environment, it's a form of self-respect.
Yeah. And it's really interesting how something that seems so superficial can have such a deep impact on our psychology. You know, if you think about a loving parent, they wouldn't let their child walk around, you know, feeling disheveled or uncomfortable. And so this inner parent kind of steps in to make sure that you feel good in your own skin, not for anyone else, but for yourself.
Now, this one really surprised me. The connection Liz makes between childhood experiences and how much time we spend outdoors as adults.
Yeah.
She talks about how her own, you know, isolated childhood led her to unconsciously isolate herself as an adult. Is there research to back this up?
There is. Actually, studies have shown that early childhood experiences with nature can have a lasting impact on our relationship with being outdoors. And it makes sense. If you were deprived of those experiences as a child, you might not seek them out as an adult. It's like a part of you is still stuck in that pattern.
And it's not just about like, you know, missing out on fresh air and sunshine. The benefits of being in nature are huge, right? Like reduced stress, more creativity, even better focus, all things that, you know, any good parent would want for their child.
Right. And so if you find yourself constantly cooped up indoors, maybe it's time to ask yourself, what would my inner parent do? Chances are they'd be encouraging you to get out there and explore a little.
Okay. Ready for a tough one? Comparison. We all do it. But Liz's story about being compared to her siblings for not having light eyes, like, it's just heartbreaking. And it really makes you think about the lasting impact of those seemingly innocent comparisons, especially from childhood.
Absolutely. And you know what's interesting is that comparison not only limits us, but it puts other people on a pedestal, often unfairly, you know. We start to believe that we're not enough, simply because we don't fit a certain mold. It's like we're constantly striving to be someone else's version of perfect instead of embracing our own unique qualities.
It's so true. And it's like that negative self-talk gets ingrained from such a young age.
Yeah.
We carry it with us into adulthood.
Yeah, and that's where the inner parent comes in. Instead of echoing those critical voices from the past, it's about cultivating a voice of encouragement and support. It's about reminding yourself of your strengths and celebrating your individuality. Like, think of it as a loving parent cheering their child on from the sidelines. They wouldn't be pointing out flaws and comparing them to others. They'd be focusing on their potential and their unique talents.
Okay. Next up is something that might hit close to home for some of us: relationships. Liz throws out this question: would you let your child be with the people you're currently with? Ooh, it's a tough one.
It is tough, but it's a necessary question to ask ourselves. We often have different standards for the people we love than we do for ourselves. Like, we'd be quick to protect a child from a toxic relationship, but we might stay in one ourselves because of fear, guilt, or, some misguided sense of loyalty.
Yeah, it's like we forget that we have the same right to set boundaries and prioritize our own emotional well-being.
Exactly. And that's where the inner parent comes in again, right? It's that voice of wisdom and protection, reminding us that we deserve healthy, supportive relationships, just like we would want for any child that we care about.
Well, this tells the story about a hairdresser who made a rude comment to her, and she froze in the moment, but later realized that she would have gone full-on mama bear if anyone had said that to her child. Why do we hesitate to stand up for ourselves in those situations?
It's complicated, but I think it often stems from a lack of self-worth. We might believe that we don't deserve to be treated with respect, or that our feelings aren't as important as other people's. And this can often be linked back to childhood experiences where maybe we were taught to be nice and avoid confrontation, even at the expense of our own needs.
So it's almost like we need to reparent ourselves in those moments, to learn how to assert ourselves and set those healthy boundaries.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that setting boundaries isn't about being aggressive or mean. It's about communicating our needs clearly and confidently, just like a good parent would advocate for their child. It's about respecting ourselves enough to say no when something feels wrong.
Liz also talks about the power of positive self-talk. She shares her personal affirmation, which is, "God wants me to win." And she says it's completely shifted her mindset. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
It's definitely inspiring, and I can see how it would be really empowering for someone who, shares those beliefs. But I do wonder if it might alienate people who don't resonate with that specific wording.
That's a great point, because what's really fascinating here is that regardless of the specific wording, the act of repeating positive affirmations can actually rewire our brains. There's a ton of research on neuroplasticity that shows that we can literally change our neural pathways and create new patterns of thinking by consistently focusing on positive thoughts.
So even if someone doesn't connect with the God part of it, they can still benefit from the underlying principle of replacing that negative self-talk with positive affirmations that resonate with them.
Exactly. It's about finding affirmations that work for you and your values and beliefs. Maybe it's, "I am capable," or "I am worthy of love," or "I'm strong and resilient." The key is to choose affirmations that feel authentic and empowering, and to repeat them often enough that they start to sink in and replace those negative thought patterns.
Think of it as training your brain for success and happiness.
This whole inner parenting thing is really making me think about how I talk to myself. Like, if I wouldn't say it to a child I love, maybe I shouldn't be saying it to myself either.
I love that. It's such a powerful rule of thumb, and it really speaks to the core of this whole approach, which is cultivating self-compassion. We're often so much harder on ourselves than we would ever be on someone we care about.
It's true. It's like we forget that we deserve that same love and kindness and understanding that we would extend to anyone else.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of this inner parenting framework. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up for ourselves with the same grace and compassion that we would offer to a child.
So before we move on to the next part of Liz's video, I'd love to hear what's resonating with you, the listener. What's standing out to you from this initial exploration of inner parenting?
Yeah, what's sparking your curiosity? What's making you think differently about how you treat yourself?
We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive and explore some more practical tools and insights from Thewizardliz.
Welcome back to our deep dive into inner parenting. It's been really interesting to see what's resonating with you all from that first part of the conversation.
Yeah, super eye-opening for me too. I mean, I've always been a big believer in routines and taking care of my appearance and stuff, but I never really thought of it as like self-care. More like, just adulting.
Right, but that's the cool thing about looking at these actions through this inner parenting lens, It gives them more purpose, more depth. Like, think about it. Even small things like making your bed in the morning or picking out a nice outfit. They become expressions of self-respect, like you're saying to yourself, "Hey, I deserve to be in a pleasant space. I deserve to feel good.
Yeah, that comparison piece we talked about really got to me. I'm definitely guilty of the whole social media trap, scrolling through endless feeds of perfect lives and feeling like I'm not measuring up. It's hard to escape.
It really is pervasive these days and so easy to fall into that comparison trap, especially with how connected we are now. But it's important to remember what you see online is usually just a highlight reel, not the full picture. Even those people who seem perfect have their own struggles and insecurities. They just might not be sharing them.
Okay, so how do we actually stop comparing ourselves? It feels so automatic sometimes, almost like a reflex.
It's definitely a process, not a switch you can just flip off. But one thing Liz talks about is becoming more aware of your triggers. Like, what situations or people tend to make you feel most self-critical? Is it certain social media platforms, certain people in your life? Once you kind of pinpoint those triggers, then you can start to come up with strategies to deal with them. Maybe it's limiting your time on those platforms, or choosing to follow accounts that make you feel good instead of the ones that make you feel bad. Or maybe it's setting some boundaries with those people who bring out your insecurities, limiting how much you interact with them.
That makes a lot of sense. Liz also gets into this idea of energetic exchange in relationships. And to be honest, I wasn't really sure what she meant by that. Can you maybe expand on that a bit?
Of course. It's basically the idea that our interactions with other people can either give us energy or drain our energy, right? Think about it. Some people, you spend time with them and you leave feeling energized, inspired, maybe even uplifted. And then there are other people and you leave feeling drained, exhausted, maybe even emotionally wiped out. Knowing the difference between those two types of people is really important.
Oh, yeah, totally. I definitely have both kinds of people in my life.
We all do. And a good inner parent would want you to spend time with those people who nourish your soul, right? Just like a wise parent would want their kid to be around good influences. It doesn't necessarily mean cutting people out completely, but it's about being aware of the effect they have on you and then making conscious choices about how much time and energy you give to those relationships.
So how do we actually, set those boundaries? I always feel bad, like I'm going to hurt someone's feelings or come off as mean.
Well, remember that story Liz told about the hairdresser? How she regretted not speaking up and wished she had reacted the way she would have if someone had said that to her kid. That's a perfect example of the power of setting healthy boundaries.
Right. It was like she suddenly realized, hey, wait a minute. I deserve to be treated with respect, too.
Exactly. And that's the energy we need to bring into our own lives, recognizing that our feelings and needs are valid and that it's okay to stand up for ourselves. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-care.
And Liz really emphasizes that it's not just about saying you're going to set a boundary, but actually following through. Like if someone keeps disrespecting you, you actually got to remove yourself from that situation, even if it feels awkward.
But that's where your inner parent comes in. That voice that says, nope, this isn't okay. I'm not putting up with this. Standing up for yourself the same way you would for loved ones.
It's often like you got to reparent yourself in those moments, especially if no one ever taught you how to set those boundaries growing up.
Absolutely. Breaking free from those old patterns and creating new, healthier ways of interacting with yourself and with other people.
Okay, let's talk about the positive self-talk stuff.
Yeah.
Liz really believes in her affirmation that God wants me to win and says it's totally changed her life. But what if what if someone doesn't believe in God?
Right. And that's a really good point. It's important to find affirmations that work for you, for your values and beliefs. The main idea is that consistently saying positive things to yourself, it can actually rewire your brain. Train it to believe in yourself more, to be more confident. It's like planting seeds of positivity.
So it's less about the specific words and more about the overall message, you know, the feeling of empowerment and self-worth.
Exactly. Maybe it's I am worthy or I am capable or I'm enough. Just play around with different phrases and see what feels right for you, what feels powerful.
This makes me think about all the negative messages we internalize growing up, whether it's criticism from our parents or bullying or just like societal pressures. It's like we carry these scripts around in our heads that tell us how we should see ourselves.
That's such a great point. And it shows how important it is to become aware of those negative scripts, and consciously try to rewrite them. Inner parenting is about questioning those limiting beliefs and replacing them with something better, something truer.
So it's like we're both the programmer and the program, and we have the power to change the code.
I love that analogy. We really do have the power to reshape how we see ourselves, to create a more positive self-image. And it starts with recognizing those old, outdated scripts and choosing to replace them with something better, something more empowering.
Liz also has this really interesting tip about putting a picture of yourself as a kid as your phone background. She says it helps her remember to be kinder to herself.
It's a good visual reminder, right? Connects you back to that part of yourself, that innocent little kid who still needs love and care. When we're being hard on ourselves, it helps to think about how we would treat that younger version of us.
I'm definitely going to try that. Okay, I think we've covered a lot here. Anything else from this part of the video that really sticks out to you?
I think it's worth saying again that inner parenting isn't about being perfect. It's not about beating yourself up for messing up or feeling like you need to have it all figured out. It's about being kind and patient with yourself, understanding. Even when you make mistakes, even when you don't live up to your own expectations.
So important. It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And remembering that self-care, just like parenting, it's a journey, not a destination. It's a process. You keep learning, keep growing, and you become the best version of yourself that you can be.
I'm curious. What's resonating with you all listening? What's sparking your curiosity? What's making you think differently about how you treat yourself?
Take a minute. Think about what's standing out to you. How you could apply these ideas to your own life.
We'll be back in just a bit to wrap up our deep dive and explore some final thoughts on how to become your own best parent. All right, we're back for the last part of our deep dive into Thewizardliz's Become Your Own Parent video. I gotta say, this whole conversation has been so insightful. It's like a totally new way to think about self-care, you know?
It really is. It's amazing how just changing your perspective a little bit can have such a big impact on how we see ourselves and what we go through.
So as we wrap things up, what are some of the big takeaways here for our listeners? Like, what are the core ideas behind this whole inner parenting thing?
Well, I think one of the most important things is recognizing that we all have this inner child inside us, this part of us that still has all the hopes and fears and dreams that we had when we were younger. And that inner child needs our love and attention, just like any kid we might care for out in the world.
Yeah, it's like that little kid is still there, looking to us for guidance and support and reassurance.
Exactly. And just like we wouldn't ignore or be mean to a child that we love, we shouldn't do that to ourselves either. It's all about treating ourselves with the same kindness and compassion and understanding that we'd give to a kid that we really care about.
Liz also talks about forgiveness, like letting go of past mistakes and not beating ourselves up for stuff we've done or haven't done. Why is that so important in this whole inner parenting journey?
Well, forgiveness is an act of self-love, right? And it's crucial for growth and healing. We all make mistakes. It's part of being human. And just like a good parent wouldn't hold their kids' past mistakes against them forever, we got to do the same for ourselves. Holding on to guilt and shame just keeps us stuck in the past. It stops us from moving forward.
So it's about recognizing that we're all works in progress, always learning and growing.
Exactly. And that forgiveness, both of ourselves and of other people, is a really powerful way to help us grow.
So as we finish up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge. What's one small act of inner parenting you can do for yourself this week? Something concrete, something you can actually commit to.
Yeah, it could be something as simple as like taking some time for yourself to just relax and recharge. Maybe taking a bath, reading a book, going for a walk in nature. Or maybe it's about talking to yourself in a kinder way, noticing that critical voice in your head and choosing to say something positive instead.
Maybe it's finally setting a boundary in a relationship that's been draining you, or taking a step towards a goal you've been putting off.
Whatever it is, remember, every little act of self-care, even the small ones, it all adds up. It helps you build that loving relationship with yourself. It's about showing up for yourself the same way you would for someone you love.
It's been amazing exploring these ideas with you all. Remember, this whole becoming your own best parent thing, it's a process. It's not about being perfect. And as always, we're here to support you on your journey.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking care of that amazing relationship you have with yourself.